What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Crypto, not doing too much today, but there is going to be a move coming up that you guys should be paying attention to. We're going to be taking a look into Bitcoin. We're going to be taking a look into some top 100 altcoin setups. Namely, we're going to be taking a look into Trump Coin, Doge, and Brett. We're going to be taking a look into their technical analysis, some moves that has yet to happen, but got to be paying attention because on this channel, we're paying attention to moves before they actually happen. Because let's face it, that's a lot less riskier than chasing pumping green candles. Finding the moves before they actually happen is going to be a lot less riskier. So do stay around for the technical analysis for Trump, for Doge, for Brett later on in this video. Now, if you guys do have any requests for any altcoins, you guys want me to do any analysis on altcoins, drop a comment, like, and subscribe below. I would choose one technical analysis request every day to do on my videos. So make sure you guys do that. Now let's go ahead and dive right into the video here. For Bitcoin, very important because it's been consolidating since yesterday. Yesterday we had a double bottom here. Okay, I mentioned that, right? And since yesterday, it has been trying to actually break out of this double bottom, however, has not been successful. And we're still seeing quite a bit of reversal pattern here, indicator here on this RSI. So what I'm talking about is we're seeing a series of lower lows on the price action charts. However, a series of higher lows on the RSI. That is a very subtle but powerful indicator for reversal. That tells me that the bears are actually running out of strength, right? And we're seeing that on the RSI here. Okay, this is the hourly time frame, and we can see a very similar theme up to the 6-hour time frame here. Okay, let's take a look into the 4-hour. So 4-hour time frame, we're seeing a very similar thing, right? A series of lower lows on the price action charts. However, a series of, well, we got two higher lows on the RSI here. Don't just take my word for it. Go ahead and Google it yourself and understand the idea behind bullish divergence, because that's what we're seeing here. All right, aside from that, we are also in a falling wedge pattern now, okay? The measure target out of this pattern is going to be, let's just pick an estimated breakout point. If it breaks out by this point, we're going to get about a 97,000 breakout target for this small falling wedge pattern for Bitcoin. Now, why am I talking about Bitcoin first, right? Because Bitcoin drives the entire crypto markets. If you see Bitcoin dump, that is not going to be good for the rest of the crypto markets. Chances are your altcoins are going to be dumping as well. So this is why, first and foremost, pay attention to Bitcoin, okay? And this is why I talk about it the first thing in the morning for this video. Let's go ahead and dive into altcoins and talk about why I still think we're going to have a great altcoin season coming up, okay? Before that, though, let's also do a very quick recap here on some of these higher time frames for Bitcoin. Daily time frame, I think we're still looking good, because yesterday I mentioned that we had a higher low. Since Sunday candle close, we still have that higher low here, okay? 3-day time frame. We're barely above the 3-day 50 SMA. Okay, that was resistance. I still consider it to be resistance because we don't have a solid candle close above the 3-day 50, which is the white line here at about 92, 93,000. Same thing with the weekly time frame. So I would not be surprised if if this actually goes back down to retest those levels, because that is still, in my opinion, very much resistance right now. Okay, daily time frame, daily 21 SMA is coming up, the blue line. That is going to be support for the price action. Okay, so if the price action actually breaks this higher low trajectory and the daily 21 SMA has not come up far enough for the price action yet, I will still expect a bounce from there. Now, just because I'm expecting a bounce doesn't mean that it's gonna bounce and go higher, right? So it's just, I would expect at least a bounce, right? So it could be the bounce before it goes lower, right? So that is something to also be paying attention to. Let's go over here to total 3, which is total altcoin market excluding Ethereum. This is also important, but behind Bitcoin, because if Bitcoin dumps, none of this really matters. However, on total 3 here, still broke out of this huge downtrend that has formed since the end of January. Broke out of it, right? About April 21st. Price target is going to be just right underneath 1.1 trillion, and this could still do some pretty amazing pumps for the smaller altcoins, especially. We have seen that for the past couple of days. Obviously, not when Bitcoin consolidates in the way that it does right now, not too much is happening, but this is still the chart I'm paying attention to behind Bitcoin. Daily 200 for the total altcoin market cap is about 860 billion, which is the orange line here. Now, we do have the FOMC meeting coming up. That is one of the few macro events I expect, right, that I really pay attention to, because I do trade leverage. I trade short term and long term. I do trade leverage, and for leverage, I trade short term, right? And I've seen some pretty crazy things happen during the FOMC meeting. So what I usually do, personally, not financial advice, is that I don't really open leverage positions before the Fed meeting, okay? And I try to close as many leverage positions as possible before the Fed meeting, because it could get pretty crazy. And if it does, then I'm going to require to put up more margin for those positions, which I don't really want to do. So I am actually waiting for the Fed meeting to actually conclude before taking any further action in the markets, at least short-term wise, involving leverage. Let's come over here to S&P 500. Still very important because very highly correlated with Bitcoin. It could serve as a front-running signal for Bitcoin here. And what I'm seeing here on a daily time frame is that it's still looking very good, because since this pump here we had on last Friday, and that was the pump that got the S&P 500 through the daily 50 SMA, the white line here. It's basically a retest with these two candles, right? I mean, it hasn't retraced that entire pump, and it's still above the daily 50 SMA. So on the daily time frame, this still looks good to me. 4-hour time frame. Okay, I see that we actually broke down from a falling wedge pattern. That could happen because falling wedges, even though they usually break to the upside, still very much could break down. What I'm looking for is an invalidation of this breakdown here, okay, and start seeing candle closes back within this pattern that would invalidate this breakdown, and we're basically looking at another pattern that's not this falling wedge. All right, let's go ahead and take a look into some altcoin setups, top 100 crypto setups. First of all, we're going to be taking a look into Trump. Trump USD and see what is going on in this market since the last time I covered it. I covered it just recently, and we're going to follow up and see what has gone on in this market. All right. Since we don't have a monthly RSI reading, it's still a pretty new coin. The weekly time frame, very low RSI. Okay, this tells me that we're a lot closer. I mean, this coin is a lot closer to the bottom than the top. Okay, not that it is risk-free, but it's just a lot closer to the bottom than the top. And I read that from the RSI, right? It is in oversold territory, as you guys can see. It is at a reading of about 20. Okay, and since this pump that Trump has had in the past about 2 weeks ago, it still hasn't retraced that pump, and it still has a higher low since this dip here. So it's still looking good because we still have a higher low since that rebound. And if you hold that higher low, you can expect a higher high. Let's come over here to the daily time frame. Daily time frame, it looks like we are still dealing with a falling wedge here. Okay, it's going to be a very common pattern that you guys will see after a pretty good downtrend. Okay, hourly time frame, where I can actually validate this falling wedge pattern. Let's take a measure move out of this falling wedge pattern if it breaks to the upside, and it usually does, but there is still a chance it can still break down. Measure target with this estimated breakout point. Measure move is going to be about $15 out of this price, out of this pattern here. Okay, if it doesn't break out by this estimated breakout point, then just move the measure move along the top trend line if this pattern is still intact. All right, let's come over here to Dogecoin, see what we could be dealing with here. I also did a post on Dogecoin a couple days ago, so we're going to follow up and see what could be happening here. Monthly time frame, let's see if we actually have a reading here that tells me that this coin is in overbought territory. Most likely not, because we have been in a downtrend for the past couple of months. It is actually on the monthly 21 SMA as support. That's about 16 cents. And we are not in overbought territory. Okay, so that means we are not close to a potential top. And why am I saying this? Do I have any reference points to what I'm saying? Go ahead and check altcoins that actually have data, a monthly RSI reading back in 2020, 2021. Take a look into their monthly RSI readings for these altcoins and tell me, how long does an altcoin keep an RSI reading in overbought territory? Okay, and then you would know what I'm talking about here. So that's why I'm checking for any monthly RSI readings above in the overbought territory. Okay, we can actually see it right here. There was one right here. That was back in November 2024, of course, but it doesn't stay in in overbought territory on the monthly RSI for very long. In this case, it was for 1 month before it actually dumped. Let's take a look into a potential pattern we could be looking at here, which is a falling wedge pattern. It's still a lot closer to the bottom of this falling wedge pattern. Of course, that's assuming that this doesn't come and retest this bottom trend line again, of course. But we are, Dogecoin is at the weekly 200 SMA at about 14 cents as well. And that's also very important support. Price target so we're gonna have to move this price target a little downwards because we assumed that, I estimated based on a possible breakout point of this week, which, it hasn't happened. So this is just an estimate, okay? It's gonna be about 49 cents if it breaks out by this point. If it doesn't, of course, move the measurement down. And that's basically what I'm seeing. Of course, price targets are only estimates, right? It could be more or less, but it's still a very good idea to get a estimate based on where the price action could be going and take profits, open positions, close positions based on that idea. 4-hour time frame. Also, falling wedge pattern. Price targets out of this pattern. It's going to be about just right above 20 cents here, based on this estimate. Some divergence here, right? We do have divergence here. Of course, that's not surprised to see because it follows Bitcoin, right? Actually, I take that back. There isn't divergence here on the 4-hour time frame. All right, but still, I think this pattern is still intact, and that is what Dogecoin is looking like from a shorter time frame to a longer time frame. Let's take a look into Brett and see what could be happening. Monthly time frame, do we have a reading? No, we don't. So not something I'm too concerned with just yet. Weekly time frame. Falling wedge pattern. Very common pattern. You guys should be looking for these patterns. That will give you a sense of if the coin has broken out, what the price target could be. All right, so measure move. It did break out of this pattern here for Brett. Okay, not too long ago, past couple of weeks ago. Measure move is going to be about just right underneath 15 cents. It already broke out. So we're measuring based on that breakout point. Had a pump 2 weeks ago. Okay, hit the resistance as the weekly 21 SMA. Should be expecting moving averages to be either resistance or support, depending on if it's above you or below you, okay? And it still has a higher low since that rebound, okay, since this low here. So that is still looking good. Three-day time frame, got above some 3-day moving averages, including the 3-day 21 SMA. It is gonna be retesting, trying to get above that 3-day 50 SMA here. Let's take a look into a shorter time frame and see if I can find another pattern for potential move. 4-hour time frame. Measure move, which is the opening of the pattern, and then you put that measurement on top of an estimated breakout point. It's going to be about just right above 6 cents here for Brett. That is the 4-hour time frame. So this is basically what I'm looking at for some of these coins. For altcoins, a lot of the crypto markets, in terms of altcoins, I'm still bullish on the markets, but that's just me. None of this is financial advice, of course. Alright, so that's basically what I'm seeing. This wraps up today's video. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow and have a great day. Make sure to like and subscribe. Leave a request in the comment section below. See you guys next time.